Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be boring date. Was it me or her? So I've got an email from a guy who he says he's been following me for about 10 years, but he hasn't quite read 3% Man 10 to 15 times yet. So that's obviously part of the problem because as you see, I go through his email. You'll notice that he kind of didn't really vet this girl properly before he made a date with her. He met her on Instagram, as a matter of fact. She was friends with some mutual friends. So I think part of his problem is was assuming that he already had rapport and social proof instead of creating it. And you can kind of see there's some hesitancy the day of the date, some things she did that he just needs to clean up his game, because the idea is if you actually go out on a date with one woman, especially somebody that you've met online, you want to make sure that you're going to have a good experience. And too many people make dates off of the matches, and then they meet up. The person doesn't look like their pictures. They don't really have any chemistry. They're not fun to talk to. They're boring. And then if you're at dinner or you're having drinks and you know within 30 seconds that you don't really want to be there and you feel like, well, I can't just dip out. Let's have a drink or two and see how this goes. And then you're sitting there having a conversation with somebody that you don't want to be having a conversation with, and vice versa. So the idea is to vet up front. Ideally, the best way is to meet women in person, because if the conversation flows well in person and you got a lot to talk about, you spend enough time creating rapport, they feel comfortable with you, you feel comfortable with them, especially if it's in a social setting. How most normal people meet people they date is just in their normal daily lives. Maybe they're out with friends, maybe they're at a friend's party or a friend's social gathering, and they meet somebody there. Those are the best type of chemistry and interactions you're going to have, because you're in your own social circle. Like attracts like. People that like the same thing tend to like each other versus some random person off the street or somebody that you meet in a dating app. So the idea is you want to improve the quality of your dating experiences, but you got to vet people up front. And this guy doesn't sound like he did it. He just went off the fact that he thought she was attractive, didn't spend any time on the phone with her, and so he just made a lot of unnecessary mistakes that caused him after the fact to go, what a waste of an evening. And as a 52-year-old dude, having wasted evenings is something you do when you don't know any better. But you gotta learn. So I'm trying to avoid you guys having to go through these things. So I got a quote that I wrote, and we'll go through his email. And the quote says, "Boring dates with boring conversations are usually the result of a failure to properly vet dating prospects before making a date. If you meet someone online, you should have a phone call or, if possible, a video call to make sure there is plenty of chemistry, attraction, and enthusiasm. If your conversation is not fun and exciting, there's no point getting together for a date in person. Otherwise, you will waste time going out on dates with boring people you don't like, people who don't look like their pictures, and people who you have no chemistry or mutual attraction with. Failure to properly vet your dating prospects is like going out on blind dates arranged by total strangers who don't know you." So he says, "Hi, Coach. I can't believe I'm finally sending you an email. I've been following you since I was in high school, 2013. Damn, dude, I appreciate you sticking around all this time. I remember following your book to the letter, and I got one of my first dates. I even remember jumping up and down on my bed yelling, 'It works! It works!'" I can totally picture that. Fast forward almost 10 years later, and I have had an amazing dating experience, so much so I almost settled down, but that is a story for another time. I have read your book countless times, not 15, but I think 8 or 9, not sure at this point. Well, if you've been following for 10 years, and you've only read 8 or 9, and you're not sure, and you're writing me this particular email, part of your problem is you didn't learn the fundamentals. I would like to get your advice on a particular date I had. I want to know if it was me or if it was her. Well, before I get into it, I'd say it's failure to properly vet. You got to do your research. Just, if you're in sales, like when I was in the mortgage and real estate business, we wanted to find out, do they have a job? Do they have money for a down payment? Do they have a good enough credit score to qualify for a loan? It's that simple. If you're missing one of the three, you ain't buying anything. And so no matter how much you talk to them, you're mostly wasting your time, because some people, they don't have credit, or they don't make enough money, or they got too much debt or whatever. They got to fix those things. And so what we would do is we would tell people to go fix those things and get back to us. And like 99% of them never did those things. The 1% did. They would actually clean their credit up, pay their bills off, and then when they got their stuff together, then they would come in and buy. But most people don't. So he says, here's the story. I have a pretty active social life, and I meet all kinds of people here in Richmond. Being super extroverted and in my masculine core is also a good. He says, plus I work out, I rock climb, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in product innovation. I'm very happy with who I am and certain of myself. While on Instagram, I saw a girl I thought was gorgeous on one of my friend's pages. I slide into her DMs and invite her out on a definite date with me. So just because you got mutual friends, this is almost like a blind date with somebody you really don't know. And I would say part of his first mistake is assuming that he's already going to have rapport and chemistry with her because they have a mutual friend in their Facebook. It could be somebody that he follows and she follows, and they don't really know each other. He says, each morning and afternoon, she would continue to ask me questions such as, where are you getting your master's? What are some red flags you look for in a girl? I would quickly tell her, let's save it for when we meet on Thursday at 7 and such a place, and I'm super excited to talk more in person. Beautiful. She would whine and say, you always say that, but okay, and smile. So what I would have done is like, I would exchange phone numbers and say, let's do, because I've done this a lot over the years, especially on Instagram. First thing I always do, I'm going to give her a compliment, tell her exactly what I think about her. Then I'll invite her to join me for a video date. Because 99% of the time, especially with Instagram, they don't live in the area. Like, at least in my case, they're literally out of the state or out of the country. So if you're going to hop on a plane and fly to see somebody, you need to know what they look like, if you got chemistry, if there's enthusiasm, if you enjoy talking to them, if they enjoy talking to you. There's got to be enthusiasm. And too many people ignore that. You want somebody that's excited to be with you, not somebody that's just kind of tolerating you and going, well, I guess this is better to sit at home, look at the four walls. I guess I'll go out and do something. Bad way to go. But you should always do a phone call, ideally, especially if they're not in the area and you're going to have to travel a distance to see them. You better do a video date. If not, you're just kind of stupid. I'm sorry. It's just stupid to do that. You're setting yourself up to have a bad time. So the day of our date comes, and I do not call to confirm. I drive to our date, and I text her a meme saying, excited to see you. She was confused. She thought the date was canceled because I never told her I was on my way or texted her at all that day. Well, you did send her a meme. Mind you, I never texted her first at all. She says, usually guys text that they're on their way at least, and I just showered, took off my makeup and everything. Then she quickly FaceTimed me. You should have done the FaceTiming before. So when she's asking you all those questions, I wouldn't have set a date with her. I would have gone for a FaceTime date. Hey, we should chat on FaceTime. Let's do a FaceTime video date. I say it just like that, video date. So it's clear that my intentions are romantic, not platonic. She then tells me how nice my smile is and asks me what I'm wearing. I remain centered and I said to her with a smile, you first as a stick a skittle in my mouth. You first as a stick a skittle in my mouth. And she giggles. She starts apologizing about how she already invited friends over, but she'll cancel on them to hang out. I told her, how about this? I'll grab a bottle of wine. I grab a bottle of wine and I come over and we can sit and talk and listen to some Miley Cyrus. Ooh, Miley Cyrus, how exciting. She says that wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, you have no rapport. You've never talked to this girl, and now you're going straight to her house. It's possible to pull that off if your game is tight, but when you have no rapport, you haven't talked to a girl, and on top of that, she's like, oh, are we still on? But yet she's been texting you and messaging you every day up until the day of your date. That doesn't make any sense. And the fact that she made plans with other people shows you really weren't that high of a priority. So she was just going to happily not show up and blow you off and stand you up. Again, because you didn't properly vet. I smile and she says, actually, you won't kidnap me, will you? I laugh and say no. This is where I think it went wrong. She starts thinking a little too long. Then she says, actually, let's head to a bar. I live nearby. I agree and walk down to it from our original spot. Not good, so she's changing the plans. I enter and see a girl seated at the table with her jacket still on. I come up to her and say hi. She didn't even get up to give me a hug. I had to extend my arms out, and she sort of patted me on the back. Oh, that just sounds... You can see that. It just sounds and looks awkward. I think she was very nervous, which isn't uncommon. Yeah, you hadn't met her. You really had no rapport, dude. You were not following what's in the book. We begin talking, and I'm having a great conversation. He says, I'm a great conversationalist, but she told me how she's boring. Yeah, again, could have all been headed off ahead of time with a phone call or a FaceTime chat. So he says, not the first time a girl has said that. I ask her a story, and she doesn't really communicate it. I ask her about red flags. She doesn't really say anything. Yeah, it sounds like she doesn't really want to be there. When she saw you in person, she's like, oh, not really then that dude. I tell her my story, where I'm from, where I grew up, and she didn't really seem interested. Again, all you would have had to do was spend 15-minute phone call, 10, 15 minutes on FaceTime video or Skype video or some other kind of video chatting app, Zoom call, whatever. She laughed a few times, but not like most girls who are on dates with me do. We get a few drinks, and she says, I have to get up early tomorrow. I don't want to be abrupt, but she is, because she's like, she ain't feeling it. Everything is just, for the moment he arrives, she ain't feeling it. I told her, sure, let's call it a night. We head back to her place, and I usually go for the kiss quite naturally, but instead she tried to give me a Christian side hug and then complimented my jacket and ran outside. Yeah, she was like, I want to get the hell out of here. Corey, was it me? Well, yeah, because you're the leader. At the end of the day, you're the man. You're the guy driving the fun bus. And you let somebody who is basically an unknown person get on your fun bus. You got to vet. You have to vet the people that you allow into your inner circle, especially like this. Did I not give her the space to feel heard and understood? Did I step outside of my masculine somewhere during the date? Or was she just not ready for the night? We should have canceled, and I should have not spoken to her again. Well, again, if you'd had a FaceTime chat or talked on the phone for at least 10 or 15 minutes, you would have had a pretty good feel for how the conversation would have gone in person. Ideally, better with video, because then you can see her facial expressions. You can see if she's excited to talk to you or not. She mentioned how she doesn't go on many dates. She's from a small town. How could I have turned this into a fun night of hanging out, having fun, and hooking up if the girl doesn't seem to want to talk? Again, you should have vetted her properly on the phone before making a date. What part of the formula you've created have I missed? Gotta vet. Guess it's time to reread your book even more times. Ya think? She texted me in the morning saying how she had a great time, but I don't believe that. Well, if you're a glutton for punishment because she did reach out to you the next day, you could invite her to do something else, but do you really want to go out with a girl like that? I wouldn't be excited about that. She could have apologized and said, hey, it was a little off last night. Sorry, my mind was somewhere else, but I personally would not go out with her again. Chalk it up to a lesson learned. So if you've got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.